Hello and welcome to the Tarkus Zone. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about my motorcycle, the Royal Enfield 350 Classic. I've owned it a couple days now. Here's a picture of it here for you to see. Right now it's still raining outside, so we're not outside doing this video. We're doing it here in my office. What I want to talk to you about is a storm I just drove through with this motorcycle. And I wanted to tell you right off the bat, it handled quite nicely. I want to bring up the weather map here. All right. So this area here where you see the red and the lightnings and the greens, that is what rolled over me. And it rolled over me while I was on the peninsula going up West Shore to the North Hero Marina, where it was like open lake to one side. So the wind was like driving me. The rain felt like tennis balls hitting me. The visibility was close to zero, where the rain was pelting so hard on my face mask that it was coming down and like blinding me. It was like I was getting just barely glimpses of visible content in front of me. It was coming down so bad. And you would probably thought to yourself, well, you probably should have stopped, moving. But I thought by moving, it was my better option because I was not too far from safety. And what I felt with the bike as it was handling, that it was handling fine. It was gripping the road just fine. That road that I'm talking about is a 35-mile-an-hour road. I wasn't going that fast. I think I was going about 15, 20 miles an hour because I was just going slow. But it was coming down pretty forcefully. The wind had picked up. The lightning was popping. The heavens were cracking. And at no time did I not feel safe. I mean, it was like one of those things where I was just driving the motorcycle. Now, I'm familiar with that road. So even with the visibility as poor as it was, I know the road. I have it memorized. So I knew where I was at any time. But at one point, the road turns into a dirt road. And that's where the fun happened. That road was pretty much getting washed out. I mean, it was crazy. It was, the other day when I was on that road, it was kind of pristine. It had a few potholes in it, dirt potholes, and they weren't that deep. The potholes today were at least this big. They were everywhere. There was one section when I rolled up to it and stopped the motorcycle. And again, when I stopped the motorcycle, that's where I really lost visibility because there was nothing blowing the water off my lens. So I stopped to look, and it was like a river coming across the road. There was a washout that had to be like 3 feet deep. And the water was coming, just pouring through the road. Well, I was like, well, what the heck? Why don't we go for it? So I went for it. At no time did I have any problems with it. I hit the hole, I hit the ditch, came right back on top of it, and just went on my merry way. Now, there were more potholes. There was an occurrence where that had happened again in the road, where I kind of just, at that time I didn't slow down. I just hit it and bumped, and went up. And I got into the boatyard, got up to the restaurant, got it, under safety, under cover, and I was drenched from top to bottom. I mean, I was soaked. And the thunder was still crackling and the lightning was going off. And it was like, what I just drove through between the mix of the weather and the conditions of the road where it had kind of washed away. This motorcycle handled it just fine. Just fine. I mean, I'm used to big bikes, big honking bikes that weigh more than I can imagine, and I can't pick them up. And my old bike was a Kawasaki 1700. It was a Voyager. It would have handled okay on this road, but I think it would have bogged itself down a little bit as because of its weight and whatnot. This little guy kind of just hopped over the hills. It hit the hills, but it kind of like, because how light it is and the way they've done the traction with this bike, I was pretty impressed. I mean, you're probably asking yourself, well, most people would be like, kind of like, well, you're driving a motorcycle in that craziness. Why didn't you try to just go somewhere? It was nowhere to go. It was either get to my destination and get under cover, or basically try to find a picnic table to crawl under. And you're probably saying to yourself that most people would probably be so freaked out about the experience. I mean, that was some heavy that was some heavy stuff coming down. It was crazy. It hit like the finger of God. You know, if you were to say the worst, you know, 1 out of 10, 10 being the worst, like God, you know, the wind's picking you off the ground and tossing you 3 miles. I think we were around a 5.5 when it came to, you know, what was going on around me. You know, with the wind and in the beating rain and whatnot. And as a firefighter or a retired firefighter, I used to go out and stuff like this. So it didn't bother me. I knew I was going to be fine. The question was the bike going to get me where I needed to go, right? I mean, because the ground got crazy with the potholes, the washouts, the water just whipping, and no problems at all. None. I sat at the restaurant where I was at, waited for the rain to stop. Now, when I stopped the motorcycle in the parking lot, the water was up to my ankles. That's how bad the water was coming down, just washing everything away. That's how quickly the rain came down. And so my feet were soaked, my jeans were soaked. You know, my jacket is a waterproof jacket, but I could feel the dampness had gone through the layering. I mean, it was crazy. The only thing that wasn't wet was my head, because my helmet was on my head. But I would say that, I mean, I've had many motorcycles in my life. I've had many of them. And I'm just surprised on how confident I was with this little guy, this little 350. And it worked nice. It handled well. They didn't slide or kick. When I was going 20 miles an hour with it in the conditions I was in, it didn't seem like I was being dumped to one side or another. Sometimes in the wind, a motorcycle driver will feel like they're being moved. I didn't feel that. I mean, the wind was crazy, and maybe I wasn't going fast enough for that kind of phenomenon to occur. You know, because I know when I'm on the interstate with my other bike, sometimes that would happen. I'd hit, like a tractor trailer would whip by me, and that wind off the tractor trailer would just kind of like, the whole bike would feel like it moved an inch, you know, in the wind. And it could be in my imagination. I didn't really feel that. I mean, my torso was moving. You know, as the weather conditions were hitting me, my torso was moving. But as for the bike itself, it performed well. It performed great. I mean, and I think the reason why I wanted to do this video was to say that's a pretty big confidence booster. When you own a bike going on 2 days now, 153 miles on it, you take it out to get somewhere for your work, to help somebody out, and you know, you're trying to time the storm. So I thought I had a window of time that I could get up there and get back to my house without getting wet. It just happened that the storm shifted, and I ended up being in the middle of it. You know, and again, it was the wind whipping off the open lake. That was the wind was just was nasty. It was crazy. It was up there, and that's what caused the rain to pelt me. Like, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm like getting beat up here. I mean, it was intense. Well, Royal Enfield, it's the 350 Classic. I just wanted to do this video today to tell you about my experience with it today, you know, in the storm. All right, well, thank you for joining me, and this has been the Darkest Zone.